Hello and welcome to the third book review of the day on CX Day, today 1st of October 2019. This last book review is going to be for Alive at Work by Daniel M. Cable, published by Harvard Business Review. The book is subtitled The Neuroscience of Helping Your People Love What They Do. So, a summary of the book. This book introduces the concept of the seeking system. So the seeking system is part of our brain that runs between the prefrontal cortex and the ventral striatum, and this drives curiosity. It is essential for both innovation but also survival. In fact, I'm going to read you a little excerpt from the book here. This is from page 6, and it reads as follows. The seeking system is the part of the brain that encouraged our ancestors to explore beyond Africa, and that pushes us to pursue hobbies until the crack of dawn and seek out new skills and ideas just because they interest us. The seeking system is why animals in captivity prefer to search for their food rather than have it delivered to them. When our seeking system is activated, we feel more motivated, purposeful, and zestful. We feel more alive. Now, traditional management has been centered on control and KPIs, which works against innovation. I'm going to read you another quick excerpt now. This is from page 124. Check this out. The author says, I would argue that bureaucratic leadership, with its reliance on certainty, decisiveness, and positional power, is detrimental because it ramps up people's fear systems, shuts down positive emotions, and stifles the drive to experiment and learn. And this really is the central focus of this book. There's an inhibiting effect between the seeking system and the fear system. They're like brake and accelerator. People want to control an environment. They use fear tactics. That stops people doing, going off script, doing things out of the box. But that also, unfortunately, can stifle innovation. The remaining sections of the book talk about self-expression. So these are basically ways to integrate the seeking system into the workplace. Through self-expression, they say people were proud to be recognized as individuals. So there's chapters that focus on how to help people express themselves, express their unique traits, feel that they're being seen as an individual. There's a chapter on experimentation. This section is really interesting because one of the quotes is, it worked better than the dedicated R&D department. This refers to a case study where the author has observed a number of individuals in an organization who were given freedom to experiment within their roles, and they ended up coming up with solutions that, as the manager said, outperform the R&D department. And then there's a section on purpose, and this is a great quote that they actually borrow in the book, but it's, he who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. And essentially this is connecting people emotionally to the customer, to something bigger than themselves, so that when times become trying, the employees are still able to push through it, and they're not likely to just stop and quit like someone would if they were only externally motivated. So I have top 5 takeaways from this book. They are as follows. So firstly, business leaders should allow freedom within the frame by creating an experimental safe zone. There are a lot of case studies in the book that speak to this, but essentially the idea is, if it's business as usual, you're going to find it difficult to compete, especially as things become more commoditized and everything moves towards the customer experience. But by using the neuroscience in this book and the case studies, business leaders should be able to feel comfortable in building an element of freedom into the employees' jobs. We saw Google do this in a sense as well, where they gave them a safe number of hours where employees could just work on their own projects and come up with their own innovative ways of solving problems. You're not being held to a KPI. You're not being held, to some standard where something might go wrong. And unfortunately, when that does happen, people immediately go into loss aversion mode. So they don't take any risks, and so there's not going to be any innovation. So I like this idea about creating safe experimental zones. There was a really interesting chapter about onboarding with best selves, and it was shown to produce higher job performance, less error, and higher retention among employees. And it also becomes a self-fulfilling positive feedback loop as well. So what they did is when people joined a company, they had them talk about what made them unique, what their best strengths were, and then there were other exercises where they had other people talk about them and say, well, these are things that I noticed about them. These were traits that I thought were really good. And when people say that stuff out loud, and that becomes the person that they present to other people, then they feel like they can be that person more comfortably. They're not just trying to be another cog in the wheel, another member of the Borg, so to speak. And that kind of leads into the third takeaway, which is a self is just a story that we tell ourselves. And if we change the story, we change our behaviors. Self-reflective job titles allow workers to be optimally distinctive. I love that phrase. It also encourages them to cognitively reappraise their jobs, focusing them on the more meaningful and intrinsically rewarding aspects. So this is something they refer to in the book, where people are allowed to pick their own job titles, obviously within reason. You can't just call yourself Grand Poobah of whatever. It has to be something relevant to what you do and approved. But people just got very creative with it. They were able to really express themselves, and it allowed them to, as this takeaway mentions, just focus on the things that really, the parts that really motivate them about their job, and that helped change their focus, the way they looked at things, and it just made them much more motivated intrinsically. And then my final takeaway is that when people frame a task as a performance situation, it triggers anxiety. And again, we talked about this earlier on with the fear system being like the brake and the seeking system being like the accelerator. And so you feel like you're being put in a high performance situation, and it just pushes the brake on your creativity. I believe that even in the book Drive, they talked about this as well, is that when people were being timed, immediately the creativity was lost. So the task is better framed to activating the seeking system, and then the performance will be better. And the reason is because humans are biologically wired for innovation and change. We mentioned earlier about how the seeking system sits between two different areas of the brain, and one of those areas is the prefrontal cortex, and the other system is kind of responsible for rewards. And so it kind of connects those things, and that's what allows people to be able to become intrinsically motivated and actually want to change and want to innovate. It's that curiosity that's so important. So my final thoughts on this book. Well, firstly, this is a must-read for anyone involved in either HR and or someone who champions employee experience within an organization. Secondly, it's a completely new way of looking at employee engagement. The best thing is it's grounded in neuroscience, and there are plenty of great case studies to get your teeth into. The book shows evidence that the seeking system is linked to both genetic and immune health. There's a section in the book where they have people take a survey, and they kind of say how happy they feel about certain things, and they noticed that people that had the seeking system activated, when they drew their blood on all the people that did the survey, they found that they had much stronger immune systems. A nice companion read would be the book Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does by Susan Fowler. This book looks at self-determination theory, and I think that actually would make a really nice companion read. That theory's been around for a lot longer, but I think that actually works hand in hand with the theory of the seeking system presented in this book. And then finally, in this day and age where the power of diversity is being recognized, this book does offer a very stark warning, and that is as follows. Diversity efforts fail when individuals feel their unique strengths are not being recognized. So even if a management team are trying to put together a very diverse team, lots of different background, lots of different lenses on the world, if they suppress the unique talents, the unique strengths of these individuals, then ironically the team tends to actually perform worse than a non-diverse team. And if you think about it, what the management's really doing is they're saying publicly, yes, we want a diverse team, but really their actions are showing that they don't. So to get the best out of diversity, you need to be activating the seeking system, which means you need to be allowing people to play to their beautiful unique strengths. So I hope you enjoyed this book review. This was the last one of CX Day. I do plan to do some more in the next quarter. So if you have any suggestions, please send them over to support@ccxpexamsimulator.com. I've really enjoyed these, and I hope you have too. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the near future. Thank you.